on the website.
Charles web debugging proxy?
Yeah. The icon is like this beautiful flower base. My Charles.
I think I might be over the free trial.
I also suggest anyone who's gonna be. I'm gonna try to set up a router that we can all go on and play with, but I suggest you turn off any, just in case we may be like sniffing each other's traffic. I don't want anyone's, I don't want you and be able to see like if you grams. Yes, you're secure. You're reasonably secure unless you start seeing an HTTPS connections. So if you start seeing something like this certificate isn't valid, do not pass go. Do not access that because someone is probably intercepting you. It's probably Michelle.
Most likely.
But yeah, I just don't want anyone to accidentally hack my computer and like sniff stuff. It's gonna be really.
I get it now.
Nice. It's fine.
The worst cat I've ever caught. Anyway, I got wings. That is what I do all day. You got me. I work at the Software Corporation.
Of America.
It's a joke because he works at the Aerospace Corporation. That name is ridiculous.
I actually bumped into Z Thursday at lunch.
That's so funny. You guys both work there.
I was like dropping off my plate, my tray at the cafeteria. I see a boo, or hear a boo.
That's right.
Adobe Flash. So 74336.
Tell the internet that we're cool.
So is it a recording or is it a live stream, or is it both? This thing.
That?
Turn it off if you want to say anything sensitive.
I don't think so.
Everybody in the live stream.
Has anyone done network? No. Okay. What operating systems are we using here? Windows 8, Linux. Anyone on Linux?
We're sniffing Linux.
Yeah. Platform it as possible.
To watch out for this.
Awesome.
Did you get video working?
I don't know why my internet's not working.
Just Samy Kamkar.
No, thank you.
It's poison to teach you about.
Right.
So.
Brian, right? Hacking related to made things so much easier. Like you can still do, but yeah, definitely use the 30 days and try to.
Memory card.
I'm actually just the dash pad later.
The MAC pages. This one's definitely P. Letters in the alphabet.
What is the black?
Okay, just like interesting. Right, you're supposed to TCP dump or many other tools. So DNS request for broadcasting. A makes a request to Google.com. B, and then someone sees that you are probably Ace, and that's a request for every all this traffic. Use TCP dump. Use any DNS requests. You'll see out of T. Even works on. You can install on Android. Love because you.
Dash N isn't.
What?
Hyphen N. So like dash N. Yeah. Yeah, that's the. Setting up your proxies within your network. The browsers that you use will then proxy their data through. So I'll go over the basics of what I wanted to go over, and we'll just get into it. Well, I found that HTML5, this is a few years ago, had something called the Geolocation API. It has always been interesting to me. How do you make a computer know where you're at? There's IP address space. You can kind of find out where an IP address kind of probably is located based off ARIN, which is basically the IP address database where ISPs can own blocks of IPs. That's typically separated by location. But it's not very accurate. It'll be like, okay, that person's in Los Angeles, or that IP address is in Los Angeles. So there's this geolocation API, and it was only available in Firefox. And I found some code for it, and I tested it out in Firefox, and it was like, to look up your location. I was like, sure. And I said, you are at 123 hard drive. First off, it was on my MacBook. We don't have GPS in our Mac. They have it like registered. It's not like I have like a V card or something. It's just immediately I sniffed to see what was happening, and it was encrypted. But it's Firefox, so it's open source. You can go in there anyway. But I did like a SSL man in the middle because that was just faster than looking at the source. And I found that what Firefox was doing when you hit allow to that website is it's sending the MAC address of all. It's sending the MAC address of all the routers that it sees, whether it has whether you have the password or not. So here, if you open up your, come on man, displays, arrangement, what? So if you open terminal, at least in OS X, you can run airport dash do a locate to find it, but you'll see every router has a unique MAC address. Is this one DC? And what was happening was, and came back and sent back. So how are they doing that? And I looked up information. I couldn't find anything. Like there was no information. I thought about it. And I was like, oh yeah, the Google car is driving around every street in the U.S. So they can associate it with that. They also, let's take a look at this. I don't know the pattern. So you can still see that they're doing is that SSI, which is the sentinels, and obviously it gets stronger. So yeah. So they can eat nuts any different network, like through an accurate location. And then I sent one, and it's like no. So I made a web, and you get there. If you want to allow that, you have to hit allow. More, and I found some hands. Okay, I don't know what kind of route to access it. If you're looking at a router, it's of any MAC, for example, the octets, bytes, base, I believe. Okay, from which is the crash space, is Ubiquity Networks. I don't know what kind of. So I mean, like, let's look at the MAC.
But you're also assuming that no one's spoofing.
MAC address spoofing. There's not too much bent. Without even like pinging MAC address, you can, which gives you a little bit more. Another thing is, and these and it's like where you gave you like bad HTML, which essentially like whatever you're passing, it doesn't, and that whatever you pass and research, like it actually, because really if it said caret into HTML code, it would actually alert that if a router has cross-site and can access your router wired in. It's the address that you have no, like 1.5. But if a victim is using, say that's their Linksys vulnerability, assuming this is like a normal, I could create an image to my web server which would then give up your route address. I ping Google and I found, well, it's cross-site scripting or access it. Actually, anyone can make an iframe do their bidding. Apple devices don't key-based. I talked about this problem list in a public database, and cool people about that for Google to drive around with Street View cars. It's actually illegal. We might as well test it out. So we tested it out. We got a MAC address of one of the routes, and I was like, what? Yeah, camera. They're actually. So I was like, well, how are they doing? I was like, what does Google have access to there? Can anyone think of what Google? What's that?
Special gear that everyone has.
Right? Everyone has Androids. So my assumption was that we're either doing all of this. Luckily, Android is open source. So, and I don't know, it was a summer and I had nothing to do. So I spent like weeks. I started sniffing. So I'd use. I was one that was always encrypted. So I learned to do SSL man in the middling. What's cool is, we've all seen this PS or SSL website. There's a couple of reasons. You know, in Google, sometimes it's something expired certificate, and it's not crazy expired. I'm probably, you know, a man in the middle of attack SSL. What time are we held to? Okay. I won't go because I think we should be sniffed. But on a request, but because it's going through you, you want to seal. They're going to use SSL like decrypt that. You don't have the private key to make that request. You send your own public key, man in the middle, and here's that user your own key. This isn't trusted. This is like for, you know, do you want to accept this using Mallory's key, the person in the middle, and then public key and a private key, everything. But they can then connection with Google. So now Mallory creates my public key, my decrypted, you know, user A, Alice's, sends it to Google. Google decrypts it with their own private key and then sends back the results to Alice. So that's how an SSL man-in-the-middle attack works. It's now a couple of clicks to like sniff people's Facebooks and Twitters. I'm going to make it easy for you to go past this. But a few years ago, it was very easy. And like it was kind of just the certificate that's invalid. So in this phone, show this. So I always keep one for you. So let's do tools. It's perhaps. If anyone sees anything. Charles. Install Charles. Generate an SSL certificate file. Oh, I guess you have to download from their site.
CA SSL super password.
Cool, so what this allows you to, I was trying to man in the middle, but the connection was encrypted, and the man in the middle, Charles cert or whatever it was, and it was invalid. The software.
It's not that it's invalid, it's self-signed.
Valid, but it's not correct. It's not on the phone. So, most phones allow you to, authority can say, oh, this certificate is trusted for this domain. So, and by installing a CA, the software or your browser can certificate. For example, using Charles certificate or using the, because this is my Android phone, I can install the certificate. But by installing that and download from my website, pl/x.crt.
What's your website again?
Samy.pl is a website as well. It's X because I'm typing it in a phone. We'll open this install profile, installed it. If Charles intercepts any SSL certificate is totally, and it was at that point that I was out data that was getting sent. So let's go into, does everyone have Charles open? Charles?
The software.
Software. We'll start just like, if you go into if you're using Mozilla Firefox, hit Mozilla Firefox proxy. I assume on Linux and Windows it probably says something like Linux.
Windows proxy.
We're gonna see like all the crazy stuff that your computer is doing. You're not necessarily seeing what's on the network yet. I'm not even sure Charles is good for network sniffing, in conjunction with some other things. But thing and crazy about this stuff is like, even though we know a lot of things are encrypted, like Gmail is encrypted, but when I go to my bank, like when I want to go to Chase, I don't type HTTPS. When I go, I make what is the HTTP, which is unencrypted URL. So they send a 301 move permanently HTTP code. My browser's like, okay, I'll follow that, and as you can see on the network, and that person made that, it's too late, your men are already dead. It's because it's unencrypted and in the middle without even having to matter. Most people don't, manipulating the connection right there. At this point, fortunately, Charles has tools for that. So let's see what we can do with that. Tools, okay, mapping, cool stuff. Let's go fun. All right, map remote. And map remote. This allows us, for us, in man in the middling, to map this URL, something on the internet, and that it doesn't. It also has local. So if you have like a local, so I have this like .com set up to go to a file I have, chase.com. Sweet, chase.com. Now, if I wanted, I could have made this. I could have made it look identical when you type in your username. Again, just like all of your credentials work. Now, using Charles on the network. Because great, love it. All right, DNS spoofing. It allows us to figure out what a host name is. There's no such thing as. You can use DNS lookup, send out a request to a DNS server, and we say, hey, backup purposes. Very few people use it. We do not use most networks. We do not use DNSSEC. DNS UDP itself, TCP has security where there's sequence numbers, acknowledgement, respond to very quickly. It's harder to mess with. All you have to do is respond faster than the resolver. Doesn't always have the answer, and when you hit chase.com to see this. So I think Charles, N1 because N1 is my wireless device on there, and then I'll say -N become faster, -N it do DNS work, but for it to resolve, which is the DNS port. Name. Okay, so you can say, sorry. Okay, so you can say like either, or you can read the man page. I'd be happy, but you can do all sorts, or that means that's a default. I'll show you an example. Let me go to, and we'll see what happened. Do 16.16.2 an IP address just made a nice DNS server to remember if you ever. It's great. I think it is, yeah. I like to get my misinformation from them. Your record, A is pretty much is record, which is an IP. That IP address 6.119. The NS lookup 4.130. Same exact TCP dump. TCP dump not on my computer. If I just run TCP dump on one computer, and now we're wired in, I would actually see. But wireless, we're not really podcast packet. I probably won't go into interested. It's actually to quickly go over it. When we're communicating over IP, we actually have our MAC address, and we have to hit add it to my router. My router goes through the router. It's a request over to the cable modem. I'm talking to another computer on my. I'm kind of to the cable modem, and it knows where a network now is 172.6. I can actually like ARP-NA it's a cache of where here on the crash-based network is C22B to the gateway. Only MAC addresses.
This MAC's a router?
So
is there a way to tell one from
but
in this like
pre the gateway.
Samy actually answered was
correct.
MAC address you can figure out.
Because we were fighting and I plugged in a Raspberry Pi and didn't think to check.
Hey, yeah,
I ended up going like unplugging.
Most of them by default will do. If you have the name, you can just go to the name that you network MAC and it'll figure out. If you read and like put a meow.local, it'll look it up. And, yeah, the local network.
Cool. Spoofing. So DNS, very simple protocol, very easy to spoof. Talking on the internet, we're take over some DNS servers, but it's not a coffee shop. It's very easy. Your computer, or your computer. It's anyone else on that network that you're on the network. You just need to be able to like code. Or Starbucks, there is no code. So that's Starbucks the other day, their internet. And if you're on a Mac, work is when you go actually hit a page on Apple, undocumented. It's like it's URL /library test success.html. Let's see if that's correct. Success. Whenever you go onto any network, this request. So it's like, hey, I'm an Apple device, or IP address. I mean,
what else are they saying
here? Let's see. Hold on. Let me see what happened, Charles. I'm curious if Charles will show it. So now, if the page does not say success on OS X and the iPhone, a window pops up, and it's to that URL, and you'll see the Starbucks page, the Starbucks landing page. It didn't. How did it know to go to Starbucks? It didn't. It's just that this page is now giving different content. So when it sees that, oh, this is not correct, like I'm supposed to see the word success. If there's no word success, it's probably one of these networks that requires some sort of login or pre-authentication. So it shows a window. And on, let's see, to do it. I don't think, sweet. So as soon as I turned off my Wi-Fi and turned it back on, I made a request to apple.com so we can see everything that my computer sent. So here's everything it sent. Let's actually look at the raw information. Oh, and look at that, a cookie. So now, every time I go, it knows that it's me. So it knows that I was at Coffee Bean 2 hours ago because I'm sending a unique cookie identifier every single time. So just FYI, every time you go on any network, Apple knows that they might not know your name, but they know that this unique computer was just down the street 2 hours IP address.
What about for Windows?
I doubt any Linux or Unix. Windows, I don't think there's besides like in parallel. So.
And look with Android phones and stuff,
Okay.
Try to connect. Reroute, so probably do something similar.
I see. Yeah, one thing that I thought was really cool is when like log into Starbucks, there's no, and it doesn't look like a browser. It's actually just a window. There's nothing else in it. The red, yellow, and green, and that's it. So you could actually have something like
So probably service to Google, Yahoo, Apple, they're all good like that.
probably have the Starbucks banner behind, right? So we could say something like network preferences is trying to add Starbucks behind it because I'm now this is part of my page. Virtually no way to tell the difference because you can't like view source, and they would just type in their username and password and then send it to me, and then I would just appear in HTML, and they would just. Another thing is Starbucks uses this in every Starbucks location, at least in the US. Your computer, no matter what way it knows to the internet here, auto-connected, right? You don't have to do anything. It's because you've been here before. Your computer knows to connect to crash space S. On HT Wi-Fi, it knows to connect to HT. You could go in preferences, right? Sharing. Second Wi-Fi dongle. I could take like. I think I have one in my pocket.
Okay.
So I can like connect to Wi-Fi my iPhone as a hotspot, and then I can work thing. Go. Connect to crash space. This is in your password type twice, or you don't need to type it in twice if I'm not setting it. Okay, cool. I want to share the internet from things in here. You can choose the utility. Maybe not. Maybe go to 11 for that. I can say I want to take the internet from my nothing here. I'll just share from my Ethernet card. Ethernet card to people over Wi-Fi. GT Wi-Fi. Where do you go, buddy? Ethernet. Internet sharing. You're not already on a network, like your computer will now, and all of your traffic will go through my. Still have internet, but now well, you can see all the traffic. If you're gonna hit an HTTPS site, the browser instead of HTTPS will direct you. I can just full control. I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just as susceptible to this stuff as everyone, and like I like my conveniences.
Basically, just be sniffing everybody's traffic, and they have no clue that.
Yeah.
It tells you to go get research.
And I mean, so if let's say you want to there are browser plugins that have been chase.com. I think it's called like HTTPS everywhere. Use that. You can just pick the URL. If this is green in Chrome, which I think will be fine. There's all of this. Like there's so many. Like every little thing. Nothing is secure. Just assume that. I don't care. People know, and that's probably because like say court. And I was like, I don't care anymore. Like I might as well be transparent. Like a reasonable amount of.
Like old school.
I can tell. Yeah.
And yeah, but no, I mean one of that thing where you go to Burger King and they were feeding that to the old timer games. Just like, go now, but wait till later. You're already in the records, kid. This you. Yeah, Attica, Wendy. Yes, I did.
Oh man, I found something super crazy today. All right, let me get off. What's that?
Be impressed. I'm buying it.
Yeah, like I said, it's the one thing I've purchased. And all of it, if you don't have the cash and you still want to play with this sort of thing, there's all sorts of other things. If you are a couple of grep, which is like it's network grep, ngrep. So he make this bigger. Space. I have to called crash space. Let's crash. Go to like space.org, and that's DNS server. Where is blog server? 8.8.8 is streamhost.com. Blog. The reason we don't see that, let's do this. Let's use the depth. Actually, 30. We also out here that's kind of
dividers.
These are that are not matching, and I asked request, and it said it's an AREC 208141. Here's the ASCII representation, whatever 30, and that's because those 4 bytes we can actually convert to hex. Left side is hex, convert decimal. 3 is an apple. It just hex 42 is the 4221. 21. So oftentimes, if that's more efficient, 255, and you might want to convert and look for the original numbers 66 IP address to blog.crashspace.org.
Okay.
Right, and so here let's look up blog.crash. My ngrep found that yet ns lookup saw the IP address. Harder to spot because that data.
To the capital yes.
That B, yeah. If you actually decimal representation of, so if we're almost here, let's ASCII 6 and so I made something later, but you can do conversions between type. Want to get the hex out, so it supports binary, decimal, octal. Makes it easy. .org and I know /event crashspace.org. So I have events. Cool. And it's crashspace. So no one likes. Well, there may be. I know there was.
Oh no.
/wx. Might as well get into ARP. Do an ARP-n. I know there's another. So I can assume anyone else on all the addresses. Like ARP places. So there's a tool called dsniff. I can never get it working on OS X, but I made. If you cannot get. Nothing has changed. ARP is like 25 years old. ARP, RFC. When I was a kid, I got a book called TCP/IP Illustrated Volume 1. I never read anything else ever. Like, is what I learned. 50s is all the same. They're just some, like, web cracking. That is to crack. Like the actual. 1982. We're still using the same exact thing. Working on dsniff. Hack it. Man, I wrote. Yeah, it works. Implementation of sniffing and Joe was I used to like hack into a whole like break in as a teenager. Never like compile anything because systems by default don't have C compile. By default, every Apple has with most Linux distributions. There, Polaris, like virtually. Was that not Windows? Yeah, Windows you have to install it after the fact. But Windows. So here, I think I have a much EV find that right now. Spoof examples. Sorry. Try this. You may need to specify a network to do TCP dump. See if that does. Yeah. Do you see it?
I just replied to something.
Oh, Nmap is a. I use it. Let's take a look at this. It's where I know the entire network. Ping to everything on that IP exists. Sure. Sorry. Because this will ping IP address. You have to. Who has this IP address on my network? Say, here's my. Will talk to when no one will listen. So once I send, he knows where the gateway AC22 our new MAC address, and I send a my MAC clear, and from then on and for him by enabling IP forwarding. So my ARPs that are going spoofing, when you created yourself, you know how that ARP spoof gateway is. You get a packet, send it along. I'm Matt's IP saying all of that forwarding still enables, and it will say, oh, script for it, the script up. So on. No, I don't think I have an index of all the files in there. That is a cool Google Doc, a sort of running list of tools I use that sort of make my life easy. It's what I'm using. Applications, some are. I don't want to use what the faults are. TrueCrypt. I don't think they suggest anything else for BitLocker. We don't have BitLocker. Cool Gmail stuff. Use things like 3, for example, are on my website somewhere. I actually don't have these very simple. It's just a syscontrol that you run on OS X. It's like 1 or 2 commands. If you want to forget, it's net.toolchain. So our traffic route to you, guys go to you, and can now not act or computer on the network. Prevent Matt from ARP saying, I'm Michelle, to me, and I'll turn on and not forward those, going to drop them. However, everything else be able to access any. Let's say you're getting ARP table. .com and Charles has been made from the host. Let's see what happens. I don't know. See something like this, and you're like, okay, what is happening? Local Mac OS proxy. Do you guys have any? Volume 1. Oh, the actual protocols. I believe volume. It was, you learn exactly how to put that book. You will understand networking. I'm employed. It's like NetOps or whatever. Protocols have not changed. We're not using IPv6. We're not using DNSSEC. Every router still has web build. Is still just as insecure. There's all this trust.
I got volume 2 at
Oh, cool. I mean, there's so much. I think Volume 1 goes over like how the protocols work and create software to use it. Another little dense, but let's say take ARP. Look up ARP RFC. Big one, but I just go to Google. I mean, it's
So you get them from
it's the fastest. It really, it would be funny to like, right? Just have like see if the nonsense. Unfortunately, they don't graph all of these. They have little ASCII. It's too bad. Let's take a look at ARP frame. Yeah, so the ARP, which tells some, and here's the MAC address, and then there's a, let's see the right RFC. Yeah. It's not clear.
Okay, request for comments too.
No, so idea for a protocol, they're from a working group or something, and then that would give. It would publish. So originally, a lot of this stuff was done out of ISL. It all comes from ARPANET back in the day with DoD. So a lot of it was just they were networking, working right, which is why this thing yeah.
Tool that let's turn off the map. Right. The SSL, but it allows you to let's add a rewrite. And let's see, we'll add a location. So we'll say if the user is accessing beta.slash.org, and we'll just modify the fonts, and we'll say value y, let's see this, which is not, but like where we can actually just say .org. And you can be more query string. I had the body, that is in the body, because well, there's a response there. And page. Again, I hit OK. And so it's anyone who's me.
Right.
I could. That might be a. But if I want you, I need work so that your ghost. I would enable DNS. Let's see if this works. Actually.
Okay.
Moves on the network, or if it just.
Really classic.
What's that?
Yeah, I got right.
Tried. Yeah.
Be like, oh yes.
Let's see what happens here. Seeing here. Alright, manually ARP spoof. Let's find out. So yeah. Because through his IP. FFF case. Send write a script that does I can stop a thing with this one. Oh, also slash.org. Matt, yeah. Are you? If you look 172.470, that's me. To Matt. I'm doing right now. Fortunately, when I'm at calling. Okay, spoof sudo arp device en43. Spoof the router is me. I am the gateway. So apply to, as you can see, there's no like override has been around changed. Prevent this.
Laptop. Like could
security or the exploit?
Yeah, the security because
I mean, they're if your people don't change on a network, or if you have a multiple range, then you have to monitor the ARP. I want the gates. That might be
routers actually.
Oh, cool. Figured out that Android, or when I sending G doing an SSL man, I then had a bunch of. In fact, you can see it. Replay. TCP replay is cool, and ngrep and other network tools, Wireshark, often allow you to create a PCAP file. That PCAP file, they have stored it with TCP dump, but then you can use. So there are different ways you actually take a PCAP file. It's like as if the. So Android PCAP file, TCP. This is now unencrypted. It's just ngrep. Port 80. I'll stop. Like this stuff works everywhere. And you can be subtle, you can be loud. Just rewrite stuff on. You could go to a Bitcoin site, or it could go that just logs. It's
It goes to HTTP.
still on any website. Only
Turn on Wi-Fi or open my computer
Correct.
or insecure connection.
Hit the believe it actually does. I think it does HTTPS, but let's check in Charles on Apple.
Which one's
Maybe not. Well, let's find a search too. It'll work now. Send forwards, request, session selected, anywhere.
I think it doesn't, because if you've ever like had the first page you open a page and you get an error, and I'm actually curious what version you're running, because my computer does not load that, and in fact it was not reliable.
Are from what?
Captain portals. What they responded to you and
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. He's saying that the cookie is probably from one of those portal cookies, since they appear to be apple.com. So perhaps that cookie still would allow Apple to uniquely identify me.
Apple can collect a lot of information. You could potentially long-lasting session IDs.
That's fun. Yeah, those are the main things I wanted to. I could probably go over another time. It's like, yeah. Oh yeah, so much fun stuff we can do. So yeah, we went over like mapping, man-in-the-middle attacks. Charles by default will do SSL, but you do have to get people to go through you. Yeah, in the future we can go over transparent proxying, where yes. Yeah, there's a few more tools to do things like man-in-the-middle attacks, where someone gets on it, and then you want them to go through Charles, or a similar man-in-the-middle attack. I would say look at Red Sox is one application you'll need, at least on just Charles.
Red Sox?
Yeah, Red. Let me turn off DNS spoofing, that's probably part of this. Bing. Wow, it works. Google.
It's really slow for that particular.
Red Sox.
Copying the same.
GitHub. Oh yeah, Red Sox transparent Sox redirector. Because you're use a proxy. Charles is a proxy or Windows proxy, like the actual proxy type. Someone, unless you acts that you can do, such as when DHCP response CP server does, X network, HTTP Wi-Fi. You can Realtek Wi-Fi see people's network from people. Send requests with the name of their network is you to be able to do 802.11 sniffing, which require network chipset. Alpha AWUS03036H, I believe. But you can install aircrack. This makes me like SSHN. Quitting. Okay, sweet. Alpha. So many different insecurities and people haven't thought of that. You got what's that?
War driving?
Usually take your laptop and you drive. War
Can you
driving.
just advertise that?
Well, that's really funny.
The Google cars are doing anyway.
Our phones, our smartphones, is looking at every GPS coordinates and the unit.
Maps those traffic.
That was another thing I found. So
Driving, and then when you get to the place, which trains you back?
Successor to ward dialing. Ward dialing was when you had a modem, randomly scan through a bank of phone numbers to see if you could idea, but you're running around with a Wi-Fi.
Instead of like actually
Yeah.
oh, cool. Who?
Jordan.
Okay, cool. I still live in Pittsburgh. So.
Oh, wait, you still live in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I was a kid.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Until I was 13.
Oh,
Yeah, so that Android stuff, I saw it was actually GPS coordinates and it was Wi-Fi. I also realized Google can determine the speed, that if it can crowdsource the speed fast people are going on Venice Blvd, live traffic on Google Maps. We have transportation sensors, but they show traffic on highway overnight, all streets Android. And my own, what if I send a few more OS app a while back that was just like Google Maps. I said I was here, and then simultaneously it would send thousands. I am a unique Android phone, and I happen to be on Venice Blvd, right? Say, hey, I'm that same phone, I'm on Venice Blvd, and I haven't moved red and black to everyone on Google Maps, and would get rerouted. And I would take Venice Blvd.
Did you see it?
What's that?
Can one phone do that? Do they just move pretty fast, but Sam's pretty slow?
Well, no, you just have to drown out the 100. So, all you need are 1,000 packets. We said 1,000. You have to, if there are 10 people on this, 1,000 packets. It would just be like mayhem. That's how things work. Like, that's the trust packets from the phone. Anyone can generate these packet data plan. right? For all data plans. Verizon, you pay for them. You pay for something. You can turn off Wi-Fi.
Because you just sniff MAC addresses. You just sniff MAC addresses.
True.
Save a lot of battery.
True.
Or just use GLONASS.
GLONASS? Oh, does that work here?
Oh, it's 2 S's.
It's weird with technology.
Amazon phone.
So,
Wicked cool.
joining. That was fun.
That's
You did a
awesome.
really good job.
Network Fridays.
Never Fridays. I don't know about every Friday, but
You guys don't do stuff on Friday. Come on.
Next month.
next month. Cool.